We're live.
All right. Welcome, everyone. You are tuning in to 11 Hours Apart, a ChiLynn podcast. He's Chi, and I'm Leah. And this week we have a lot to talk about. We like to, talk about different movies and shows that we're watching these days. In honor of the Halloween season coming up, at least in the US, it is our Halloween season coming up towards the end of October here when we're recording this. We did watch some scary movies or some Halloween type movies. Poltergeist, which is a classic, not super scary, but Steven Spielberg's film. And then I watched for the first time the new It movie, so I might want to talk about that briefly. But then also, Chi and I have both been watching House of the Dragon, the TV show, so maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that some too. And yeah, is that cover it, Chi, or is there anything else you
Yeah,
want
it
to
covers
add?
everything. Yeah, that's pretty much what we have on the table this week.
Yeah.
A lot to
Oh,
talk about.
I got something.
Yeah, sorry.
Just like, share, and subscribe if you are enjoying this conversation. And we hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to leave comments and questions too if you have other things you'd like for us to talk about in the future to
Yeah,
our massive audience out
yes. Please
there.
do that. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So please do. Yeah, so I feel like we had a pretty good selection this week because we watched two scary movies, and one was a old classic, and one is like a recent movie. I rewatched it
Remake,
last
though.
night. Hmm?
Okay.
Oh yeah,
It's a remake,
remake.
though.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So I did rewatch the It movie last night in preparation
Hmm.
for this because I watched it when it came out, and I
Nice.
never got to rewatch that again until just yesterday.
Yeah.
So I
Cool.
did do that. So
Nice.
which
Good
one do
job,
you want
Chi.
to start? Do you want to start with Poltergeist, or would that be a good place to
Um,
start?
Yeah, that would be a good place to start since that was the first one we watched. Um, yeah, I have always been curious to watch this movie because I knew that there was some iconic images and lines from this movie. I think the "they're here" line that the little girl says, that's a very iconic, well-known movie quote. Um And but you know what? To be perfectly honest, I don't even know if I knew it was a Steven Spielberg film until I started watching it and it said this is a Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah.
So,
Although he didn't direct it. He
what did
he
he
wrote the
do?
story. He wrote the
Oh, he wrote the
story and he
story.
produced it, I think. But the director was
Oh.
somebody else.
Well, it was also produced or executive produced by Kathleen Kennedy because she did do a lot of Steven
Oh,
Spielberg movies.
yeah.
Um, oh, but that's interesting. I didn't know
Mhm.
that he didn't direct it. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Well, so he wrote it. That's interesting too.
Hmm.
I thought, um, I enjoyed it for it was kind of like a wholesome, scary movie. It was had this very wholesome like feel to it. And I know that this is true every time Chi and I have a conversation, but we always have spoilers in our conversations, so don't mind that. But the ending was wholesome. Like the family gets away, and they come together. Every family member kind of, other than maybe the teenage daughter, I feel like each of the family members, including the dog, had a role in helping to overcome this haunting that they were experiencing. Um, and I just want to say, I told my mom this, but one of my favorite parts about the movie is that there was a dog in it and that the dog didn't die. Usually if there's a dog, especially in a scary movie, it dies at some point. So when the opening scene, I'm pretty sure involved the dog going around the house, And I was like, oh gosh, this dog is gonna be, because usually they do that as like a foreshadowing of like, you know, something when they show like the cat or the dog at the beginning. And then I just get so tired of how that happens like in every movie, even Signs, which we watched before and talked about, Chi. And in that movie, the dog, one of the dogs at least, dies. I think they both die in that movie. And it's like, goodness gracious, like, why does that have to happen every single time? So this one, I really appreciated that the dog did not die. And he gets away with the family at the end. And that's part of the reason why I say it's like kind of had some wholesome themes to it and stuff like that. And you know, like the mother and the father have to work together. It ends up being the mother that has to go in to the, I don't know, in between realm to get her daughter back. um so it was kind of like her bravery in the end and her like desperateness to save her daughter that kind of like that was necessary for their, in order to save her. And like the father also helped, but he kind of had to stay outside because he was the only one, as they said, strong enough um to like hold the rope for them. So the mother had to be the one that went in. But yeah, it was interesting. I would say my biggest complaint, and I'd like to know what you think about this, Chi, is there was the line at one point in the movie about like how they said like a haunting, like a regular haunting is like a ghost or a spirit haunting or attaching themselves to a particular place, but that a poltergeist attaches themselves to a person, which I didn't know that in mythology. I guess my main like understanding of what a poltergeist was comes from Harry Potter, like Peeves in Harry Potter. And I just always associated poltergeists as like ghosts that are kind of like obnoxious, like they're troublemakers, like they knock things over, they make loud sounds. I didn't know that maybe there was in some mythologies or whatever, I don't know if you call that mythology, but in some uh be- belief systems or in some definitions of that term, according to this movie, they said poltergeists were attached to a particular person. And so when they said that, I was like, oh, that's what this is, because the movie's called Poltergeist. And then there was another line in the movie where they said that the daughter was born in the house. So I thought like, oh, maybe it's the daughter that they're attached to. But that, for that reason, I thought that there was going to have to be something more to like resolve that issue, you know? And in the end, they escape the house, but the daughter's still with them. So I kind of thought that there was going to be some little thing right at the end that indicates that the poltergeist is still following them around, you know, because the daughter is there, and maybe it's the daughter that's really is the attraction. And as the, you know, she was the first one to be able to talk to them, the spirits, and the psychic person that comes in said that like she is the life force that is like attractive to these spirits and stuff like that. So I just thought there was like a little bit more to be resolved, or like I had more questions as far as like that goes in the movie. But at the same time, it's just like a fun movie. I think Chi, you said it came out in the, yeah, it came out in 1982. So it's like a very 80s movie. I do kind of love that time period because it was like before I was born, but it was also before like computers and cell phones. And it's just like kind of a cool era in my mind. I mean, the 90s were like that too, but the 90s were different. I don't know. 80s seemed to be like a bit more innocent or something. And I kind of do love like movies, especially movies involving, like I love those Steven Spielberg films that came out in the 80s, and that a lot of them involve children. Like he's very good at telling stories where children are, you know, some of the main characters, and he knows how to capture that like childhood innocence. And I really appreciate that. But even in this film, that was very much there, like that childhood innocence of the brother and the sister in this movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's kind of my overall thoughts about it. What did you think, Chi?
Yeah, I I I thought it was okay. I mean, it was because, like you said, it was made in the '80s, and I thought the whole thing was I thought the idea was interesting, and I like the the moral message behind it. It's like you got to respect the dead, otherwise they come back and cause basically they would just exact revenge, and that's basically what happened. Um, but I thought the pacing and the way the story was told was a little uneven, so I wasn't I thought it could have been told better. And also, like, I thought a lot of the well, it wasn't their fault, but they were limited by technology and like the visual effects. So when we saw the all the ghosts, it
Yeah,
was a little anticlimactic. So it wasn't just like some flashes, some flashy sort of shadows, and that was sort of kind of it. Um, which again, not their fault, but I feel like that moment should have been like the one of the climax of the movie. But um
yeah.
maybe I was just like spoiled by the modern day VFX, and I was so used to it. So when I saw that, it's like when you play a like old classic video game that came out like 20
Mm,
years ago, like you couldn't really get into it, because not because of the story, but because like the visual effect was so outdated, and
yeah,
and you just like that was a sort of like a barrier. I feel like
yeah,
it was a little bit like that, with this movie for
for you.
me. About the difference between haunting and the poltergeist, um, I thought the whole thing was they thought they were poltergeists, but then they realized it was a haunting. Like, which I don't know why they
Oh,
still could
okay.
be poltergeist, but I remember like the psychologist, like the woman, at some point she said this is like a haunting, because I think they did something, they like those things didn't go away or something like that. I think some explanation was given, but I couldn't
Mm,
remember exactly what.
yeah. Well,
But
it
I thought
seems
the
like,
conclusion was that it was not. They were not. They were not a. Maybe because at the beginning they were just like pulling chairs, like moving chairs around, and it seems like
mm-hmm,
just sort of mischievous and harmless. So maybe
mm-hmm,
they thought that was like they were poltergeists. They're just like playing tricks on people. But then they
mm,
found out like later on that what the daughter was gone, and it was just it seemed my impression was it seems too much to be like for poltergeist to be able to do.
mm-hmm.
So I think they determined that it was haunting, but they couldn't figure out like what was the reason,
Yeah.
until like the reveal was that, oh, it was the whole neighborhood was built on this communal graveyard, and
Mm-hmm,
the person who did this, like, he didn't like pay respect to the dead. He didn't even take out the dead bodies and give them like proper burial. He just like sort of removed the gravestones and just built houses, on top of them. And that was why the those spirits were angry.
mm-hmm,
Um, yeah. So overall, I thought it was a good story. It was a strong story, and I do like the family element of it.
mm-hmm,
Like, you know, um, So yeah, I like that. And also, maybe we can talk about this again when we talk about it. But
mm-hmm.
because I saw um uh I found, I don't know if this is true or not, but I found elements from this movie and from it in the Stranger Things series.
Oh,
Like the
yeah.
fact that they have to go in, like they have to wrap like ropes around themselves, and drop into another world to do
Yeah.
something. That
Yeah.
was very much in
Yeah.
the Stranger
Yeah.
Things, and
Yeah.
also in it. At the end, when when Pennywise got hold of somebody, they float, and with their eyes turn white, turn
Mm-hmm.
pale, and just
Mm-hmm.
float in the air. That's what
Yeah.
happened. Like, they had that in Stranger Things too, and the abandoned house that leads
Yeah.
to that was a portal to like some other world,
Yeah.
it was there. So I thought I didn't confirm whether that was just because because whether that was because there are just that so many elements you can use in this
Hmm.
genre. So it was not like a tribute or like a like a hats off. It's just like a coincidence, or they actually use those elements in sort of like a pay homage to these classic sort of horror movies. I don't know,
Oh
but
yeah.
I just find it interesting that yeah, I saw like similarity, I saw like parallels,
Hmm.
um yeah, between all these things. No, mainly between the Poltergeist and Stranger Things and It and Stranger
Hmm.
Things, which I found to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that I mean, Stranger Things is set also in the 80s. So they definitely took inspiration, I think, from all of those films in Stranger Things. Like they use a lot of elements. Like they're not like inventing the wheel for the first time or something with Stranger Things. Like they're using a lot of classic like storytelling and scary movie elements and 80s movie elements. Like they draw from tons of those movies, especially movies that do involve kids, because Stranger Things is essentially a movie about a group of friends that are kids, you know. So yeah, I saw the same. I thought the same thing with the rope. And you know, when I was watching Poltergeist, I thought I do think I actually did watch this movie like a long, long time ago, because I remembered the psychic lady with her glasses and her very distinct high pitched voice that she has.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I remembered her. So I either saw like part of the movie on TV once, or I watched the whole thing once and I just forgot about it. But yeah, I do think I definitely saw at least that scene at the end where that lady is like, the psychic lady is like screaming like, don't go towards the light or go towards whatever she's saying.
Mhm.
You know, it's very distinctive. So that like I did have a memory of that come back to me, so that was kind of interesting. But I also will agree with you, Chi. Of yeah, definitely the visual effects were not up to modern day standards by any means, and perhaps it would have been even scarier if the visual effects were a little bit better. Like I almost think they could remake Poltergeist as like a very scary movie. Like there could be a way to remake it, but I also think that part of its charm in a sense is that it's just this, you know, it does have those old visual effects. And at the time, like they were getting creative with it and using a whole bunch of different things. I have to say, when the mother and the daughter get pulled out of the in between area, which also, you know, does remind you of Stranger Things. Um, it looked like whatever the substance was that they were covered with looked like jelly, like jam,
Yeah. Yeah.
jelly. Like I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Like
Yes.
it was very
Yeah,
obviously
that's
that.
probably what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
it's
agree.
almost like they're not even trying to like hide it. But but yeah, there was like a couple of visual effects in the movie that I was like, oh, whoa, like that was good. So it's like, it's almost like they had to put a lot of effort into some of the things, but then some of the other ones, they had to do the cheaper, like less, you know, involved approach, or like they had to use just different like tricks of the light, or I don't know. I don't know how they did all of it, but like, um, yeah, definitely wasn't, it had more of that. Again, maybe it's because I'm reminded of Peeves in Harry Potter, but like it had more of that almost Harry Potter feel of like, yes, there's ghosts, but it's not that scary. You know, it's like there are these scary elements, but you're not really that scared as you're watching it or whatever. But I think really the story, there's more to the story than just getting scared, you know, just it being a scary movie necessarily. But and you could see how that might be scary for kids, like if you're a younger child watching that movie. I think that there would be parts of it that would be scary. But I thought that one of the scariest, or like just kind of
The
parts that
tree.
would be disturbing. No, was when the guy like starts peeling his face off. Do you know
Oh
what I'm
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
Okay, yes. That was a
Ugh.
very, yeah. I can see like, you know, like young kids being like really
Yeah.
terrified by that scene. That
Yeah,
scene
and
was
that
yeah, that was intense. That scene was
that
intense.
that was one where I was like, the visual effects or whatever practical effect or whatever they used there was really good. Like, it looked
Mhm.
kind of realistic, like he really was doing that,
Nailed
and
it.
then you could see
Yeah.
the tendons and stuff underneath, and yeah, it was pretty gross. So that one I was
Yeah,
like, wow, like that was really strong, but
I
clearly
know.
with
But
some
but
of
the but the
the
funny but the funny thing is that that really shouldn't be the most scary moment in the
no,
movie, right?
no, no, I
Yeah,
agree.
but
Yeah,
it was. So
yeah,
so it was, that's what I was talking about. Like the again, I don't think it was their fault. I think they if had they had the technology now, even not even now, like maybe just like 10 years, 15 years ago, they could have like told the story much better. They could have like
yeah.
hit the this the scary moments, really make them
Oh yeah,
scary,
yeah.
and where they're needed.
Hmm.
Um
Hmm.
but I think back in the
Yeah.
day, it was way easier to make this like sort of practical,
Hmm.
uh, like
Makeup
practical effects,
effects. Yeah,
yeah, rather than this something that requires
yeah,
computer for sure. I
yeah,
mean, it just
yeah,
wasn't there at the time,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you know.
And did you notice that the kids had all kinds of like Star Wars toys?
Yes, yeah,
That was
like a comforter or like the poster,
of
and
Darth Vader.
yeah,
They had
Darth
a
Vader,
Yoda
yeah.
toy too. Yeah, I think that was Steven Spielberg because him and George Lucas, like George Lucas put E.T. in in the prequels.
Mhm.
So it's like I think they tried to like show each other support in a way by like doing that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was nice. It was a nice gesture because
Yeah,
the Star Wars like had blown up by
it's
then.
accurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
So that's why
accurate
like
to
he
the
was
time.
showing that because A, it was like accurate because it was that's what the kids would be obsessed about at the time, but also
Hmm.
like given that they were friends in real life, it was like a nice,
Hmm.
yeah, like look the success of my friend George, right? Like it's right there. That was nice. Yeah, I noticed that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I thought some of those little details were appreciated. Also, I
Mhm.
think that they did a great job of showing like I think there was a little bit of a commentary there maybe on like suburbia and how suburbia in America, like these new suburban developments that were popping up during like urban sprawl and everything else, like they look great on the outside and it looks like this picturesque, like perfect community, but there could be something darker
Mhm.
underneath, or something
Yeah.
haunting them because these communities, like that land was used for something else prior to it being that suburban neighborhood. So,
Mhm.
it's like there's a history there that suburbia sometimes like tries to wash over or ignore or pave over because they just, want their new houses and their perfect neighborhoods and stuff. But it's like, no, there were people that lived there before, or there was a history to that land that sometimes we ignore just because we want a picturesque setting for our nice new houses or whatever. But it was like very beautiful. Like at the beginning I was like, wow, this looks like so, like before it zooms in and you see that like all the houses are pretty much the same, it looked like a little village in like Europe or something. Like I was like surprised that it was America, to be honest, because I was like, I feel like we don't have too many little like communities like that are nestled in between um like the mountains quite like that. Like, but I liked the setting. Like it was very pretty. Even the graveyard up on the hill when they go and walk up there, that was very beautiful. So I don't know. It was a cool setting for it, I thought, and they did a good job of like setting it up like this picturesque, perfect community that is like nice and neat and clean, and yet like there was more to the story, more going on there. But I do wonder, okay, this is the last thing I'll say about this movie, because this goes back to something you were saying, Chi, is it just came back to me. I think that like this, there were two things going on from the spirit world in the house, because there was like the spirits that were like the lost souls of the people that had been buried, but then remember when the psychic lady said there's also like a darker presence there. So I wonder if maybe that's the poltergeist, like maybe it's both, like they were being haunted by the spirits that the little girl was tasked with leading them towards the light, but that there was also the eviler, like darker spirit of maybe the poltergeist that was attached to her too. I don't know. I just one other, that was just one other thought about it, because I think I got the feeling like some of those spirits were not bad or trying to hurt her or anything. They just wanted to, they were just lost souls in a sense. But then there was also the evil poltergeist that is like maybe the monster that comes out of the door, that we see that big like head come out of the door. There was that too, because then you can also remember the part where the daughter was talking through the TV and she said someone's here, and like she was scared and it seemed like it was a bad presence. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there could have been like multiple, or like maybe some of those lost souls were fine and they were good, and then some of the lost souls were bad and they were desperate in like a violent way, you know. But
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
goodness she gets
yeah.
saved at the end, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, she did. I don't know, because I guess my interpretation of that is, um, I just took the giant monster to be like a collective sort of, like the anger, like the manifestation of all the anger and
Oh, okay.
and the
Mm-hmm.
hatred of
Mm-hmm.
those spirits, because
Mm-hmm.
it was actually very common instead like in Japanese sort of, horror or something. It's not uncommon to have some evil spirit being not just from one single person, but like a collection
Mm-hmm.
of a lot of people's, like, their negative emotions or their obsessions towards something, and they just like join together and become this thing. So I just
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh, that must have been that, because I was never, I guess we were never explained why, if that giant thing was a poltergeist and it was attached to the girl. I feel like we were never told why that would happen in the first place. Like why,
I know.
I
My
feel like
only
why
thing
was
was
that
that
was
she
not
was,
explained. So therefore, I didn't. Yeah, so I guess that was why I just, that's not how I sort of interpreted that.
mm,
What that thing was, and why she, like, the thing didn't, at least as far as we know, didn't follow the girl. I mean, there are sequels, so
mm-hmm.
maybe that would be answered in the sequels. Um, I
There
don't know, but
is? I didn't know that.
yeah. There's a, like, a poltergeist. I think there's at least the second one, whether.
Oh. Uh-oh. Oops. Uh-oh. Oh
Sorry, I
no.
what?
You're back, but
I'm
did
back.
you
Yeah, I know,
go?
I know. I popped out because I was trying
Okay.
to like go to like the previous page on my browser that was open,
Oh,
but
okay.
then I did it here, so that brought, like, that just, kicked me
Okay.
out.
Oh
But
yeah,
it's
there
okay.
is
I'm back.
a poltergeist too. Cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there was a third one or something, but there was at
Mhm.
least a second one. But maybe the question would get answered there.
Hmm.
Oh,
Interesting.
yes, there's a third one. It's a trilogy. I don't know how, like, tightly connected the stories were, though. Let's see.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that first one was a pretty big like hit of some
Hmm.
kind because
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't
yeah.
know, but I
Anyway.
feel like there were like a couple of loose ends for sure. Like not everything was explained.
Mhm,
Like was resolved at the end of
mhm,
the movie.
mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I felt like, but maybe I do have to watch that second one someday. I don't know if I will, but you know.
Mhm. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I had some
Maybe,
questions
maybe,
too.
maybe someday. Maybe someday.
Yeah. But it was interesting. I think
Mhm.
maybe now can we go ahead and are you ready to lead into talking about it?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
am. Let's do it.
Because here's one thing that I thought, and I did enjoy. I watched back in years ago. I had watched the original It that came out, but I just hadn't watched this new one yet. And I knew that the kid from Stranger Things was in it, but I
Hmm.
didn't know much else about it other than it was just like an updated one. But here's one thing that I felt a little bit in both movies, so maybe this is a good segue. Is I almost felt like both Poltergeist and the new It were this is like my criticism, but I really did like the new It. So I'm not trying to like say that I didn't like it. I'm just saying one of my criticisms is I felt like in a sense they're trying to do too much. Like it's like instead of focusing on like one aspect of fear or one aspect of what people are afraid of, they try to pull in a lot of scary elements like, you know, like and in the movie it makes a little bit more sense because it's like each kid sees what they are most afraid of, and it's kind of like it also reminds me of Harry Potter because it's kind of like the Bogart in Harry Potter where
Hmm.
it turns into whatever
Yeah.
you're most
You're like your
afraid of.
deepest fear. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
And so that made like a little bit more sense and gives them an excuse to show a lot of different like scary elements, like, you know, of different things that scare people. But sometimes like I feel like I get more scared in movies that is like really honing in on one particular like scary thing rather or like a few scary elements rather than and exploring that like really deeply, I guess, than a movie that tries to pull in a bunch of different stuff if that makes sense. And I feel like Poltergeist did it in the sense where it is like they had the ghost element, but then they had the guy peeling the stuff off his face. They had the monster element. They had a clown in Poltergeist as well, you know, the clown toy. They had the tree coming in through the window, like, you know, there's a lot of different they had the dead body element of the dead bodies in the swimming pool. Like, you know, it was like so many different things that like sometimes like I was thinking about it as I was watching Poltergeist, thinking about like the paranormal activity movies. And I know I don't even know how many of those movies they have now, but I remember when that first paranormal activity movie came out and how much that movie made like a big splash in a sense. Like a lot of people were going to see it and like saying it was very scary and all this. And I watched that movie and found it to be quite scary like the first time I watched it. But all that movie did was like play off of the one thing, like the chair moving across the room at the beginning of Poltergeist is it basically what paranormal activity does except for the whole movie rather than having all this other stuff. It's like they just focus on like what if you are in a haunted house and objects are moving around, doors are slamming by themselves, and you know you're being haunted, like it focuses on just that. So I don't know if that makes sense what I'm trying to say, but I thought a similar thing when I was watching it where it was like I almost don't know if they needed all of the different, like if they wanted it to be, I think it's fine for what they seem to want it to be, but I think that and I've never read the Stephen King novel, so I don't know if it's accurate, more accurate based off of the novel, and in that sense, like, you know,
Yeah, I think it is. I'll tell you my thoughts when you after you finish. So
yeah.
please
But
go.
all I'm saying is, if you wanted to be a little bit more creepy, scary, mysterious, it almost is, in my mind, like I find it that effect to be greater when they focus on just like one thing, like the clown down in the storm drain at the beginning. In my mind, was like the scariest part of that movie, and that probably comes from the book, but also comes from they had that in the original movie. And the original movie also, I remember very distinctly, like one of the scariest parts for me watching that, and I don't even know how old I was when I watched that movie. But that original movie, I remember the part where they're looking through the history book and the photographs, and there's something in that original movie, I can't even remember all the details, but something where the clown like moves or changes position in the photograph, and that like really freaked me out. And they didn't really have that in this one. They had the history book, they had the um flipping through the pages, and he saw like a kid's like head or something in the tree, but they didn't. And they showed a couple old photos with the clown in the old photos, but they didn't have the part where he like moves in the photo and like starts. And that just, I remember that scene as being like the scariest part of that first movie, that original movie, and they didn't do that in the new one. So those are my two main criticisms for the new one. Other than that, I did like it. I thought the kids were great. I thought obviously the visual effects were up to date in the new one. And I thought the clown was very creepy. Um, and yeah, I thought all the actors were really good. And there was a couple parts where I laughed. There was like one part at least where I did jump a little bit because I wasn't expecting it. So like I think it hit in a lot of the right spots. But similarly, it's not the most scariest movie I've ever seen. I don't think it's that necessarily that's what it's trying to be, because it's more than just a scary movie. It's also trying to tell this kind of story of friendship and coming together to fight off a scary enemy that is haunting you, and that you need your friends in order to be effective against that, you know? So, in that sense, I really liked it. So, go ahead, Chi. Sorry. That was my little rant.
No, that's okay. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think, I think what I like about it is because the story is I think the Pennywise and the scarier part of it is an element, but the whole point is to tell this story of this small town meanness. You know, people
Mm,
are indifferent, and that is why, you know, that is probably why Pennywise can live in this town but not some other town. Because
mm,
you know, remember like when the new kid, when Ben was being bullied, there was a car driving by, and the adults who were in the car didn't even like slow down to stop the bullying. They just drove by. And when Beverly was like kidnapped by Pennywise, and
mm-hmm.
then Bill was giving, like, he was going to go in and go save Beverly, and the speech he gave, I assume that was pretty close to what the book, you know, what happens in the book, like what exactly what
Mm-hmm.
he said. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea was basically that, you know, he cannot sit by, like idly by. He has already lost his brother. He's gonna do something about this thing that's been haunting the town.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like because a lot of town, in a way, it's people are very close, but at the same time, because I'm like fascinated by this like the small town meanness kind of idea,
Hmm.
because um like my father's side came from such a town,
Mhm.
pretty much, and
Mhm.
and you really get like you know um some of the best things about people and also some of the worst things about people in a small town, where everybody knows everybody and it's pretty isolated. You get really good like neighbors, like
Mhm.
people like keep an eye out for each other,
Mhm.
but you also get this somehow, like for example, when Georgie died, uh there's a woman on the porch on the house
Yeah.
right next to it, and
Yeah.
she saw Georgie was like crouching down, like looking into the drain, and
Mhm.
all she did was like she just like shook her head and just walked away, right?
Mhm.
So I think there were signs of that, and telling you that the town was a little bit of like um everybody just like mind their own business,
Mhm.
and that is that thing that was the actual that was the demon, and Pennywise is just a symbol of that, and then they add something like a backstory about the origin of Pennywise and what his purpose is, and all that.
Mhm.
That is just like some sort of like a dressing. That
Mhm.
is not really like the point. I
Mhm.
mean, that gives them a reason for this adventure to propel the story along, but what really is the spirit is this small town meanness,
Hmm.
which I
Yeah.
find, if you see it through that, for example, like Beverly was being people were being bullied left and right. Beverly has this pervert father. Nobody
Mhm.
was doing anything about it, you know.
Mhm.
And it didn't. I mean, the movie. I don't know the book, but it didn't show us. Oh, Beverly turned to somebody for help, but then didn't get
Mhm.
help. I think we just
Mhm.
assume that nobody cares.
Mhm.
Like nobody cares.
Mhm.
You just mind your own business,
Mhm.
right? So if you look at the story from that perspective, then all these this elements of like bullying and all that suddenly has a focus, I
Mhm.
think, or has some structure for you to attach everything to. And so maybe for me, it wasn't that sort of over the place like the Poltergeist, because yeah, like those things don't. They are like individually scary elements and maybe good ideas on their own, but together, they didn't really form like cohesive sort of. Uh, they didn't serve like an overall overarching purpose, or
Yeah.
at least it wasn't that clear.
Mhm.
But the good thing about it as a story is that they, like you said, a bunch of misfits. They're the losers club, right? Like, which is like a cliche, I guess, because like the Stranger Things, they have the same thing,
Yeah.
and they are like, but they banded together, right? They even like made like a
Mhm.
blood vow to like come back and eradicate this thing 27 years later
Mhm.
if it wasn't killed at at the end of the first movie, and they did.
Yeah.
That's what the
Yeah.
second movie was about. Um, so I feel like that was in a way, it's like some sort of allegory about we gotta care, like we gotta do something about
Mm.
what's wrong in the community. We can't just like
Mhm.
turn our blind eyes to these things, and so, I mean, in a way, like Pennywise it's not even that important. Even although, like, I agree, like Pennywise, like the uh as a character, and
Mm.
the actor that
So
plays him
creepy.
was very scary. Was like very
And
scary, and
and he
I really like the fact that it was, because it started out, you think it was like Freddy Krueger kind of character. Like he is just like a freaky killer clown. But when he is like devouring people's soul or something, he turns to something that's completely inhuman. Like he lost even like the human like aspect of it. That I thought was really cool, because it becomes
mm,
like a machine, even like an inanimate object of some sort, like
yeah.
a and and
Yeah.
um and I because again, I didn't read the book before, so when I first saw the
Yeah,
movie,
me
I
either.
was like very surprised by that because I thought Pennywise is going to stay like a human, like a clown form, and that's always, that's how he's always going to be, but not really. And
Yeah,
and 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 you can that is gonna unravel more in the second movie, when they
yeah,
actually put an end to this, to this thing. So I really like it. I really like it.
yeah. I've never seen the second movie either, so
You
I need
should.
to
It's it's
watch
it's
that.
worth watching. It's really worth
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah. I I mean, I think so. I remember I was thinking about this as I was like sitting down to watch this new version, but I remember that original It movie. I remember the cover of it in the video store because we would go to the video store to pick out a movie. And that cover, when that original one came out, or I don't know when it came out, but it was in the video store. I just remember the cover of it very distinctly with the clown poking out from, it's like he like burst through the corner. I don't know. I just remember it, and it had it on there. And I just remember finding just that image alone creepy and intriguing enough that I wanted to watch that movie even at a young age. Like I thought like, "Oh, that's scary." Like I want to watch. But like I remember even before my parents would let us like rent that movie because we were probably too young, being like kind of captivated by the image of it, of the creepy clown Pennywise. And so it is a good character, good scary character. And when I watched that, when I finally did get around to watching that original movie, like I do you remember, I don't remember the whole movie, I don't remember all of the deviations between the original one and this new one. I did kind of want to rewatch the original one, but I didn't try very hard, but I couldn't find it on like the streaming services. I watched the new one on HBO Max, but
Hmm.
I don't know where you can watch that older one. But I did like that older one too. I think that is worth rewatching, to be honest, because I think it did a little bit less, and that's what I was trying to say at the beginning is like sometimes I actually less is more when it comes to these things. But um I do remember like the storm drain in the first one, and then the moving picture thing in the first one being like the two scariest parts. And I just kind of want to like watch that again. But anyways, I didn't think about it from the angle of the uh, small town like meanness, as you were saying, Chi. But I did think of it as like it's also kind of a lesson in sometimes you can't always overcome your fears, your worst fears by yourself. You need help
Hmm.
from your friends. You need people to be there with you in your fear. And I think like maybe the best scene in this new movie that demonstrates that is the when they help the girl clean her bathroom of all the blood
Hmm.
and stuff. It's almost like that is almost a metaphor too for like when something is, maybe if there is something even in your mind that is bothering you or something is haunting you in your mind, sometimes you have to go through a physical action in order to like, you almost, even if it's like not real, right? Like even if that her bathroom, because her dad didn't see it but the other kids could see it and they helped her clean it up. But even if they couldn't see it and only she could see it, it's like there might have been a useful effort in just cleaning the bathroom. It's like one of the like as a metaphor almost for like sometimes you just have to go through the actions of like cleaning something up, even if it's unseen to other people or something. Like you still have to like in your mind it's not okay, so you have to just go and fix it. I don't know, I just thought that that was kind of a powerful scene in a sense, and maybe
Hmm.
that could be applied to psychological like trauma that people experience, and like sometimes it's useful to go through the actions of physically like cleaning something up in order to help like settle your mind. I don't know, but I liked that. I liked I think my favorite of the kids was the little boy who is like the germaphobe, or he has the overprotective mom, so
Oh yeah.
he like
Hmm.
made me laugh the most. So I liked him. But
Yeah.
I thought the
Yeah.
boy, what New Kids on the Block, little
Hmm.
thread that was going on between the girl and that
Yeah,
one boy
Ben.
was really cute.
He was my favorite.
Yeah, he
Little
was probably my other
yeah, like
favorite.
the
Yeah.
chubby Ben. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I yeah
Yeah.
I think I really like that is the one I can relate to the most.
Yeah. And it does make you kind of sad that they don't get to save Georgie at the end, like the little brother
Oh
that
yeah, that
he
that
just
that
is
that
dead.
scene was very very sad. I
Yeah.
yeah, that scene was like
Yeah.
yeah, that was really sad.
It's like the whole time you think the older brother, like he's the one that's saying no, he's still alive, he's still alive, but in the end that's his worst fear, so he has to come to terms with the fact that his younger brother is really gone, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that is sad. But it was also a movie where, see, I love that like time period because kids just got to like kind of as much as like what you were saying, Chi, of like the kind of the apathy of the town or people kind of not paying attention is true, but you also have the freedom that these kids had to like run around outside. And yes, they, as a result, they encountered danger. Like they had these bullies after them that could easily like do a lot of damage since there were no adults around. And then, but they also had the freedom of getting to kind of like, go around outside unsupervised. Like that just doesn't exist anymore in
Hmm.
modern day America. So like I do like watching those 80s movies just for like the adventures that the kids get to go on, because it was a different time when kids used to like, and it, I guess even before that too, like kids used to have a lot more freedom. And I don't know if kids always had that much freedom, but um it's just kind of fun. I love
Yeah.
watching those
Yeah.
adventure stories with like young people and them figuring things out and stuff. It's like very entertaining.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so I had the exact same experience. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, like we didn't have that much land, I couldn't go to a quarry or something. But like I remember when I was in elementary school, after class, like me and my brother and like a couple of friends from the neighborhood would just like roll our bikes. Really, it's just the same thing. It's a different landscape, different scenery, but maybe not that many places that we can go, but we just like roll around sort of
Yeah.
in the
Nice.
neighborhoods and
Yeah.
like went to going to like construction sites and nothing that exciting, but
Yeah.
you know that's
I
what we
know,
did.
but it's like kind of fun and adventurous, and you use your imaginations and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all
Like
that.
we burn things, we found like a lighter and we sort of like try to burn a few things and that
Yeah.
small things like that. It was like a lot of fun for kids to
Yeah.
do.
Hang on, I'll be right back. I gotta let my dog in the door. So
Okay,
sorry.
no problem.
Sorry for that brief pause. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. She gave up and went back downstairs, so I don't know. I just left the door
Oh,
slightly
she was
open.
out. Oh, she was out outside of the room.
Yeah, just like outside my bed,
Oh,
my
I thought you had to
door.
like let her out of the room. Okay,
No, she
gotcha.
was like whining and scratching at the
Mm,
door, and
right.
I took too long, I guess.
Yeah.
So
She's gone to play with the cats.
she went back.
Maybe.
Yeah, she gave up. She
Mhm.
probably just got back from being outside.
Yeah.
My parents let her outside, so she likes to
She's
come and
not.
like
I think she's
see
not gonna
me.
talk. She's not gonna talk to you for 3 days. Mhm.
She'll be okay. But yeah, fun movie. I do want to watch the second It movie. I do think there's like similarities, as you said, between other like kind of 80s movies that are set in the 80s, and also with Stranger Things. So I'm glad I watched it. I really did enjoy it. It was a perfect movie to watch like this time of year. And it was good.
Mhm.
Like it's a good one if you are someone that doesn't like watching like really really scary movies by yourself. This is one you can watch by yourself and you'll
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yes, yes. I think this one is yeah, is
Yeah.
pretty it's still palatable, I think, on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um yeah, like the I'm just trying to think like what is or what are the scariest movie I've ever seen. I think it's got to be like Exorcist and like the Japanese The Ring. Yeah, I think that
I
these two are
yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, I feel like scariest movie I've ever seen. I mean, see, I haven't even watched The Exorcist, but I saw it on there. I need to watch it. But that's one I don't think I can watch by myself. I will get
Mm,
so scared during
you,
that.
you, yeah, I mean that one
The
you might,
Conjuring,
but I think it's on the safe side. You might just want to watch with some with not just by yourself. But
yeah,
that movie has some like pretty intense profanity though. Like I don't know how well you would take that.
like the
I don't know if you,
language.
oh yeah, when the girl is
Oh,
possessed, like
oh, I don't care
I'm
about
not
that.
even no, I'm not even talking. It's not just cursing. It's some pretty intense things about okay, I'm not gonna spoil it.
Jesus
If you
Christ
can
and like the
watch it,
Catholic Church or something.
no, it's just that it's I can imagine if you're a Christian, then that the thing I'm referring to you just might not like it. It's
Oh
I
well,
mean
I probably won't, but
I'm not
it's
Christian, but
a
like
demon. It's the devil. It's like Satan.
I know. It's just that it's well, okay. Maybe one day when you watch it, and we can discuss that. I mean, I thought it was like pretty baller. Like they actually did that. Like yes, of course, it was a demon, so it would make sense, right? That they would
Based on
do
a true
this.
story, Chi, isn't it?
Seriously,
I think
I don't
so.
know.
Pretty sure it's based
Really?
on a real exorcism that took place.
Oh wow,
Um,
I didn't know that.
but it
But it was a good movie. It was a great movie. It was worth watching for sure.
I'm gonna look
Check
it
it
up.
out when you have time. Or do you want to talk about
Do
that movie
another.
next week?
Um,
Can you
well,
can you find somebody to watch it with you?
I yes. Okay, first of all, The Exorcist was
Yeah.
inspired by, not based on, but inspired by the actual
Yeah.
1949 exorcism of a young
Mm,
boy from Cottage City, Maryland, and the
mm,
horrifying 1634 Loudon exorcisms. So it's like two different, they combine like two different real events to inspire this movie, it sounds like to me. But I don't know. That is something if we watch, we'll have to like do a little bit more research and give the history. Roland Doe, the chilling true story that inspired The Exorcist. But you know what else looks so scary to me is that I've
mm.
never seen is the Conjuring movies. Like those looked really
Oh,
scary.
I also haven't watched them.
Oh, they look like almost too
I know.
much to
Yeah,
bear.
they're like yeah. I heard they're like really intense too. The
Yeah, they look
Conjuring, the
very
Conjuring
scary.
universe. It's a
Yeah.
universe there. It's like a world. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I know. But it was also about exorcism. Um,
Yeah, I
that
know.
yeah,
That's
I
those are
hadn't
the
watched any of
scariest
those
to me.
movies.
Those are the scariest to me, those
Yeah, they could be
exorcism
they could
ones.
be pretty scary too.
because I don't like seeing people like moving in unnatural ways. Like that's one of the scariest things.
Okay. Then okay,
And
there's
then,
that. There's like a
oh yeah,
iconic.
no,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I know.
Man, that was very intense.
Ooh. And then I don't like yeah, I think the voice distortion thing that really creeps me out too, but it's like also it's like combining all the things that I find the most scariest because it's like a haunting in a sense. Like you're it's like
Mhm.
a spiritual like haunting possession thing and that is like unseen sometimes, but it like manifests itself. And then the scariest part of it is it can get you even if you're in your safety of your own bed or house. Like there's nothing you can do to block
Yeah,
the barrier because
yeah, yeah. Pretty
you're
much.
it's the spiritual zone that is in invading you. So like there's nothing you can do other than be protected by your faith, by your
No, you gotta
holy
find a good.
water.
You gotta find it. You gotta find yourself a pretty powerful priest. I mean, yeah, it was just sheer bad luck. Like
Yeah.
the girl didn't do anything wrong. She was just like possessed. Like it just like
Oh,
fallen upon her,
so
and then she was just like in this like misery.
yeah, it's like
Anyway,
how
it was a classic. It was a classic movie, and I think if not for next week, you should definitely watch that sometime.
we might
It
have
was
to do another one where we do like the watch party, you know, like
yeah,
we did.
For the Japanese ring, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that if
Yeah.
you want to. Yeah, sure,
But yeah, we'll talk about it later because we
sure.
got to talk about scheduling stuff.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I scary movies are fun. I think watching both of Poltergeist and It, even though they're not and It, sorry, I didn't enunciate that very well. Um, even though they're not like super scary, it definitely like put me in the mood to watch more scary movies, but then also it also made me want to go back and watch some of the older scary movies that I've never seen too. Cause like I still haven't seen some of the classics, you know, that basically when they were out, like I was too young to watch them. So like some of the ones that I've just never seen them. I've never gone back and watched them. So I need to do that because sometimes I don't know what they're referring to or I don't they're referenced in other things like Stranger Things or something and I
Mm,
don't always know where that
yeah,
comes from and so it's like it's fun. It's definitely fun and
it is.
Halloweeny and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
it's
Um
great. There is a. Just want to mention
oh,
in when this is happening in the West in the West, um, in the East we have this era of like the Chinese zombie movies. Um,
oh,
yeah,
cool.
they are
That
very
sounds
different from. I mean, the
interesting.
idea was very similar, but it was its own genre because the
Mhm.
Chinese zombie they have their own like lore, like how they look like, what they do, how you can do to like deal with them. It like I think in the like 90s probably like there's like a lot of movie using that
Hmm.
idea, and
Mhm.
you also have like the Chinese priests. They're not
Mhm.
Christian, but they have it's like
Mhm.
they're practitioners of this folk belief, and they have this ability to like to deal with the zombies.
Mhm.
And but I think it's going to be pretty hard for you to watch them because I'm not sure if any of them is on any of the streaming platforms, and if they do, I'm not sure if the subtitles can do them justice. But I just want to put that out there because
Oh, okay. Yeah.
it's pretty good. It's really pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting,
that
at
would be
least to
interesting.
try watching one, you know? I bet it's scary. I bet they're scary.
Yeah, but they're more like action movies, really. It's
Oh, okay.
scary, yes,
Okay.
but not never like Exorcist or nothing like that.
Okay.
um yeah, it's very much like a yeah, like action movie with zombies and zombie fighting Chinese priests.
Mhm. Okay.
Yep.
See, I've never been I'm not like too big on zombies the way some people are, but
I
if
know,
it's a
but it's
good
but trust me,
story, I don't
it's
care, you
different.
know?
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
again, it's only it's the similarity only it's only like on the surface.
Okay.
The vibe is totally different.
Hmm.
It's totally different.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
shall we talk about we have like 10-15 minutes left. You want to talk about House of the Dragon? I think the
Yes.
finale just came out, but I haven't watched the finale
Oh,
yet.
was that the finale? I don't think so. I thought
No,
there
no,
was
no,
like one
no, no,
more
no, no,
week.
no, no. Yeah, no, but the finale just came out. Like the real finale, I think just came out. Right?
No,
I think.
I think it was episode 9 that came out yesterday, right?
No,
Or
I saw that.
last
No,
night
no, I
for
watched
me.
that last week
Um,
because I saw on NPR something about the finale. So I think
oh,
the finale is out now, like now.
yes. Okay, episode 9 was the one that was last week.
Yeah, yeah, that's the.
So,
I think we are. That's what we're both at the
oh
moment. We
my
haven't watched the
gosh, it's
finale yet.
over
I have not.
already?
Yeah, it's over.
Is
So
this
I
the
guess we can
finale?
talk about it.
Oh,
We can talk about it when we finish the whole season, or we can talk about it up until like the
well,
penultimate episode. I
I
don't know.
think we should
Either way is fine.
I think we should touch on it. I mean, I didn't watch it last night, like the most recent, the finale episode. I have
Neither
not
have I.
seen.
Yeah, I'm still like I finished episode 9, and that's where I'm at.
Okay. So this will be spoilers up until that
Episode 9.
penultimate episode, as you said.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
yeah. And we talked about it a little bit after like the first couple episodes that we
Hmm.
had watched, but we haven't talked about it since then.
Yeah.
So first of all, I am still like very much enjoying it. It's very good, I think. But and I gosh, like the King Viserys arc
Yeah,
was amazing.
was
Like
amazing.
Patty
Yes.
Constantine.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Oh, also,
So sad. I teared up for
It's
sure.
actually Considine. So I watched some
Oh, I don't
interviews.
know
It's
how to
actually
say it.
Considine. No, I didn't know either.
Okay.
I just thought like I think we both like Considine, but it's
Yeah.
Considine.
Okay.
Considine. Yeah.
Considine. Yeah. Great, great, great
Oh yeah,
performance.
amazing performance. So
Oh,
even George R. R. Martin
so
thought like
good.
he said like your
It's better.
Viserys is better than my
Yeah.
Viserys.
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like episode
Yeah.
8, I think it was 8, right? Yeah, when he like
Yeah.
just
Died.
decided to not drink the milk of Poppy and like limped in, like
Oh yeah.
all the way
Yeah.
and like dropped the crown. And when the Damon like pick him up and like put him on his head and like
Yeah.
sit there and like determined to like spend his last breath setting his family straight. That was like you are a baller, man. Like
Did you know
that was badass. So
did
good.
you so good. And but
So
did you
good.
know that the crown dropping was didn't mean to happen? It was improvised by Patty and
No,
Matt Smith. Yeah.
really? Oh,
Isn't
that
that
makes it
amazing?
even better. Because that was a really great moment. I thought it was
Yeah.
that because okay, because it was so great. I didn't even think that could be like improvised. I just thought, okay, well, that is such a great writing to like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like to bring the brothers together and for
Yeah.
the brother for Damon, who always like had this contempt towards his brother, finally at the very last moment to like to have this respect. Like he realized that his brother is actually an honorable king and like a respectable figure, and he like respects him. And I thought it was just perfect. And
Yeah.
the fact that it was improvised
Yeah.
was just like,
Like
oh man, that's amazing. That's
they
amazing.
didn't intend to for the crown to fall off. So basically when that happens, like if you go back and watch it, there is like a moment of hesitation where it's like nobody knows what to do, it seems, but like then Matt Smith like chose to like
Mm,
pick it up and put it back on his head, and they just played along with it. It was like so good. Like
I
you
know,
can't.
I know. I mean, even the pause is realistic because, like,
Yes, so
if that really
realistic.
happens, obviously nobody's gonna just come and because that was an awkward moment, right? Like to see a king in his state, like dropping, like
Yeah,
losing his crown, that was, that was supposed to be like a really vulnerable moment for the king,
yeah,
and I think everybody who's gonna like try to sort of pick up the crown, put him back, could be considered as like, oh, you overstep the line, you're being like patronizing or something. And so I think everybody naturally would take a pause and think about how I should deal with that. Should I just like ignore? Should I just let the king to pick him up himself, or what do I do? And then
hmm
yeah, like the fact that Damon picked it up
hmm
was just perfect. It was
hmm
perfect.
hmm
Yes.
so
I
good.
love that moment. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that segment was just amazing.
yeah, and I think the like I also love the part where he's being like treated or whatever for his wounds, King Viserys, and he says to Otto, like, I want to have dinner. And Otto says, you can tell he's used to the king being confused most of the time because Otto says, it's morning. And he's like, I know, I meant tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
I
just
know.
like
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
so
I noticed
good.
that too. Yeah, it was great. It was just great.
That was
Great writing.
so good. And then the dinner scene was amazing. I thought the older actor for Aemon, is his name Aemon? Yeah,
Even
Aemon,
like the
eye
um
patch
yeah, the
guy.
site
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he is like amazing. Like he already has that like Damon
Yeah.
ness about him. Like immediately, like that guy came onto the scene. First of all, the young little boy that played him was amazing, like
Mm,
perfectly cast.
yeah.
But then this guy seems really good too because he does like he has that same sort of like look about him, even with just one eye, where he's just
Mm,
like watching everybody and like he's not going to be the first to act, but you also don't want to mess with him. Like, oh gosh, like he's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
be an
yeah.
interesting
He's
one
very
to
he's
watch.
like a very sly sort of figure. And yeah,
Yeah,
I do love him. Yes, that
I
is
think he
some
was
that
well
is somebody
cast.
I would like to see. I'm like curious about what's going to happen and where he's going to go and so on. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was yeah.
yeah,
Agreed. Very much agreed.
yeah, and it's like interesting. I guess like the most notable thing from that episode was also, well, not the most notable thing is King Viserys, but it's also notable that at the dinner, King Viserys triumphs in actually being able to bring his family together, and there's like the moment of joy and happiness, like Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of make up with each other, temporarily, and he's like happy for a moment, and it's like the saddest thing because it's not gonna last, but at least for
Mhm.
him it does because then he goes to bed, but it's like immediately he leaves and it's too late because the kids have already been pitted against each other. It's like, yes, Rhaenyra and Alicent can make up all they want, but it's too late at this point because their kids have already been kind of like poisoned by this competition for
Yeah.
the
Oh, but no,
throne.
yeah, but I think the reason there is because again, this is another. I think this is a lesson that just keeps like happening, which is if you like indulge yourself and then you're gonna pay heavy price afterwards. The whole like anonymity between the kids is because like two of the kids are bastards, obviously, right? And that was the problem. And why are they bastards? Because like they I think uh Rhaenyra thought she could like you know um how do you say that, like
Oh
have
yeah,
to
because
pick have to pick and eat too much of it.
Eamon says the line in the toast of like you're strong boys or that you let's toast to you being he says something like in the toast about them being strong and it was just like okay, here we go.
Mhm. Yep,
I
yep.
thought that was so good. But sorry, what I didn't mean to what were finish your thought, Chief. Sorry.
Oh, it's just that it's all because like Rhaenyra, she thought she could like have it both ways, right? Like she could
I
have this
know.
marriage
I
and
don't
then
like
but also like yeah, like and like again, it's tragic, given the circumstances because they have to like you just cannot have a marriage without there being any sort of political benefit. So that had to happen. And I guess it's only human that she would want to sort of satisfy her needs elsewhere, right? Like that makes sense. But in the world of the Game of Thrones, just that whenever somebody does that, there's going to be paybacks. And but there you go. you know
mhm.
um and that is a big reason, a big part of this, like the family feud, right? It's just because like
Mhm.
there's always going to be this question about the legitimacy of her two sons, and as long as they live a day, there's always going to be there. And so I think the family cannot really, yeah, like you said, they can like make up however they want, but that's not gonna like eliminate the doubt and the underlying problems that's gonna keep coming up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I do feel like the for a while, maybe at the very beginning, like I remember the episode where Rhaenyra, they're on the hunt, they're doing the hunt, and then Rhaenyra's the one that actually sees the white stag or whatever
Hmm.
it is, and
Yeah.
she chooses like not to kill it, but that's supposed to be like a symbol of her like destiny in a sense because they said but and I think during maybe like that episode like Rhaenyra was really growing on me and I was like kind of rooting for her for a little bit and then I totally went towards Alicent because I was like did get annoyed at Rhaenyra for she is kind of like spoiled and kind of gets what she wants and she's able to like treat other people like with very little regard and she gets away with it. And Alicent, like I think Alicent does have a point when she's upset with Rhaenyra that Rhaenyra hasn't done things the right way or she hasn't done her duty in the proper way, the way that Alicent did have to make those sacrifices. So I kind of did sympathize with Alicent. I don't know if other people did that much, but like I kind of did because I feel that like when you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to play by the rules, and then there's all these other people over here that are getting away with not doing that, and still they're still in positions of privilege. And in Allison's case, like Rhaenyra is so much in a position of privilege as heir that that actually threatens not only Allison's life but the life of her children. And so, you could feel for Alicent a little bit. So I like was kind of siding with Alicent, but now that she's like actually thinks that she wants to put her oldest son Aegon on the throne, I'm like, no. Like I'm not
Yeah,
like him.
well,
Like I would rather have Aemon.
because she mistook she okay that the only like quabble that I
I
have
know.
with the story is that it's just so, because you know why, right? Like the reason why she did that is because not
Yes,
because she was like being selfish, it's because she really thought her husband, like thinking Viserys' dying words were for her.
I
But he
know.
was confused. He thought he was talking to Rhaenyra, right? Like
Rhaenyra. Yeah.
so, right. So like she thought he really wanted, he changed his mind in the last minute. He wanted to have like Aegon, his own son, on the throne instead of
Mhm.
Rhaenyra. and
Mhm.
that just like sort of changed everything. Like the
Mhm.
short, the piece that only lasted for like a night or like a
Mhm.
few hours, just like, well, now it's all different. It's a total different ball game now for Alicent. And I
Yeah.
just thought, isn't that convenient? Right? Like it's almost too
I
convenient.
know. I thought that too. I
But
didn't
but
love
again,
that
but
part.
then again, it wasn't so bad that I just like, okay, I'm gonna stop watching. Um, I I um I still thought that yeah, that was like a minor complaint, but
Mhm.
still like um
Yeah.
because I think for the mother, you can always she's always gonna fear that even though like Rhaenyra up until now didn't really show any sort of willingness to actually threaten or kill like her Addison's two sons. She was like pretty much just like, well, I'm just gonna focus on
I
my
know.
thing, and we could be friends, like we could be a family. Like she never was that sort of you know I don't know, like hostile towards Alicent. um but I
But
think because
Allison's over here with like Otto in her ear
yeah,
being
yeah,
like,
exactly. So the thing, but the thing is, like Allison, if she like has not been like a pawn of her dad and sort of like was like brainwashed to some
mhm,
extent, she would not be in all this trouble. And the reason why she had this hatred, this like sort of anger towards Rhaenyra is because has she also like is has a stake in who sits on the throne.
well, and you Allison also though, like she originally was appalled when she found out that the council had been plotting behind Viserys's back to go ahead
Yeah.
and set it up for Aegon to get on the throne. Like she had an understanding that Viserys really did mean it when he named Rhaenyra as heir. And
Hmm.
I think she really had put aside some of her qualms with Rhaenyra in that dinner scene. And she
Hmm.
was ready to like, I think she had hope that this power was gonna pass peacefully and that she would be safe and protected
Yeah,
through
yeah.
her
'Cause
friendship with
there
Rhaenyra.
was a marriage proposal from Rhaenyra, right? Rhaenyra, I think she understood why Alicent was like so insecure. So she said, "Well, let our children marry, right? So this way you
Yeah,
can be sure I would never try to kill any of your children if we just like sort of play like act according to plan. Like let's just
yeah,
not do any sort of political game. Let's just do that." But of course,
yeah.
that's not what Otto wants, right? Like he has like a bigger
No,
ambition for his own family, and that
yeah.
is why, again, I don't think anybody is innocent here.
Mm-mm,
Um, but because when you're playing a dangerous game, like Otto
mm-hmm,
said,
mm-hmm,
you just gotta have the resolution to win it. Otherwise, why
mm-hmm.
why why play it in the first place? You want to play it, you just
In
gotta
this
play to win.
world, yeah,
Yeah,
in
you
this
play to
world,
win. You
the
don't just play for
people
like
that are,
funsies. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And that is why, like I mean, that's why we have this whole story unfolding is because people do
yeah,
want to sit on the throne. That
yeah,
is like, they care.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So, I mean, I really like the show. I very much enjoyed it.
yeah, me too. The last thing I guess I'll say until next time, when once we've watched the finale, is I was also a little confused with at the very end of the last episode, spoilers, spoilers,
Mm,
spoilers, um, with the dragon popping up through the floor.
the
What
floor.
Rhaenys, is that
Rhaenys.
character?
Yeah,
Rhaenys. I
Rhaenys.
don't understand. I knew that's what she was gonna go do. She was gonna go get on her dragon. Didn't I don't like that she used the dragon to basically pop up through the floor, but then didn't like she could have killed them all right then and there. I don't like that was like kind of too convenient too that she decided to spare them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like the dragon like
Oh,
roars at them but doesn't
right,
actually
right,
like
right. Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
anything.
Okay, I have a slightly different opinion because if you think about it, she's not gonna kill because nobody knows what's going on. Everybody just knows that, oh yeah, King Viserys named Aegon as the heir. And if she's like kills everybody, like like in
Exactly. I
in
don't think
plain
she
sight, so that's gonna like what that's what's that gonna make her like a king, like a king killer, like a usurper, like what? That's not gonna work. I think she is trying to show them like, um I know what's going on. I've got my dragon. So if you want my support or something, just like we'll have to see what happens in the finale. But I'm guessing because we don't know if she's gonna like side with Rhaenyra or what. She just flies off,
I think she's
and
going
either
to Rhaenyra.
yeah, that's possible. But it's also possible that she is just she now is the lady of the Driftmark
Uh-huh.
and potentially the Navy captain, right? Like the Navy admiral, like because her husband is like pretty much practically dead.
But
Uh,
we don't know that, so I'm pretty sure he's alive because
right?
we
No, no. I
haven't
mean,
been told.
practically is. I think the setting is that he has been like so severely injured that he's not gonna come back to his normal sort of functional self, and that's why his brother was like trying to do stuff, but his brother is dead. So
Yeah.
she is the only person. I mean, she is a big player on this like political chessboard. And
Yeah.
I think up until this time, I think it's clear that she has no intention to sit on the throne herself.
Yeah.
So I think either she is like she's gonna um, try to win Rhaenyra, and then while keeping her hands clean, right? Because she don't want to murder like the whole royal family, like in front of everybody herself.
She murdered half
She
the
would rather.
city.
Right, but I think it's different. I mean, that's a possibility. Or she is just gonna be out there, and then, well, you have this two parties that's gonna fight for the throne. So like, I'm all ears. Bring name, I'm gonna name my price. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm curious to find out. Um, but yeah, I do think her action sort of makes sense to me. That she didn't just like she didn't like scorch everybody just right then and there. I think
No,
that
I didn't even want her to have that opportunity. I think it's dumb that she even had the opportunity. Like it was kind of
right.
silly. Like she should have just like escaped
Hmm.
secretly, like flown off. Maybe they would have seen the dragon like through the door, like flying off in the distance, and then Allison, it would have clicked with Allison, like, oh my gosh, she's
Ooh,
going to
yeah, she
Rhaenyra.
got away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think that would have been better, but it's fine. They had to it was impressive, like impressive display of her of like she wasn't going to go quietly or like she I think she had to like leave with a bang or something. Like she just it also shows like the powerfulness of of being a dragon rider or just having a dragon, even if you're not on the throne or
Oh
in
yeah, yeah.
contention for the throne, like you still
Yes.
have a lot of power if you have a
Hmm.
dragon.
I mean,
So
it's a
yeah.
big, it's a very valuable asset, right? Like
Yeah.
being able to control dragons, and I mean, I think she's very smart. Like she is just, I'm not gonna play this bloody game because that's more likely than not it's gonna get all my family killed. I'm just gonna be a very important player on the board. So like whoever wants to stay on the throne, he has to please me, has to like get me to their side, and I think there's more to gain in
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what she's up to really. But
Hmm.
I'm curious to find out. I think we're gonna get some resolution
Hmm.
in the finale. I think
Hmm.
it'd be weird if he just like
Yeah.
we never saw her again in the finale. I think that would be a little weird.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I can't wait to watch it and talk
Hmm.
about it some more
Yeah.
next
Me
time.
too. Cool.
Um, I do want to say quick, like less than a minute or 1 minute thing that I told you, Chi, last time when we weren't, or last time you and I talked, but I just wanted to say it like on the record. Um,
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify because I did clarify this with Chi, but last time Chi and I recorded one of these, we were talking about the last duel. And so I just want to make clear that some of what I was expressing um, towards the character of, I forgot his name now. It
Jean-Luc
left
Rouge. Jean-Luc Rouge.
Le Carouge. Is that how you say it? Le
Yeah.
Carouge. Jean
Well,
Le
close enough.
Carouge.
I don't speak French, so sounds
Yeah,
like that.
I know me
Yeah.
either. I hope it didn't come off like I supported his character in the end, given the knowledge that we gain from the Lady Marguerite's perspective. I understand that what the movie is saying is that her perspective shows the true picture of what happened. So, given that information, he was very abusive towards her. And so I'm not in support of that at all in any sort of relationship. And I think that that is very vile behavior towards, it was very vile behavior towards Lady Marguerite. I think some of what I was trying to get across in our conversation was that I wanted to believe that he was more of the man that he saw himself as from his perspective, because that is the first perspective we get. And I wanted to believe that maybe there was like, sure, maybe he gets angry sometimes, or maybe he yells at her sometimes, but did not want to believe that he was also like horribly abusive towards her in any way. And so I think some of what I was expressing is like, I wish in some ways that that wasn't the case, because I think that would have made for also a pretty interesting story if maybe Lady Marguerite like interprets some of his harsh behavior in a different light, but that it wasn't necessarily like flat out like physically abusive towards her. But that's not what it was. That's not what this story was. So I understand that. And I think that the way that he was portrayed from Lady Marguerite's perspective was not, I do not condone that in any way, shape, or form. So I hope that that didn't come across that way. I hope I said that clearly just now. It's just that sometimes like I don't buy into the idea that all men back in the day were awful and abusive towards their wives. Like, I don't think that that was true, but in this particular story, the two men that Lady Marguerite dealt with primarily were both very vile towards her, in according to the way that they told that story. In the true story, I looked up that information, some information about that. And in the true story, Lady Marguerite did have two more children. I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I know that she did have two more children with Jean de Carouge after the trial by combat occurred. So they did continue on in marriage together and seemed to continue to have a strong enough relationship that they were having children. So he did end up with three. I think they ended up with three children together, considering that it seems like they considered that first child to be his. Who knows if that was actually true either. A lot of this is like, lost to history, I imagine. But anyways, just kind of interesting. And I just wanted to clarify that I did not mean to sound sympathetic towards a man who was abusive towards his wife, because I do not think that that's okay in any context or any era. No matter, even though I know I said in our conversation that, they were kind of like just people of their time. I didn't mean that in that I thought that that was okay back then for a man to treat his wife that way. No, no, no. So I hope it didn't come across that way. And if it did, I apologize, but I just wanted to clarify that point. So that's all I have to say there. So thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, so that pretty much wraps up this week.
Mhm.
And yeah, so thanks for tuning in. And again, if you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, just leave it down below and we'll be looking forward to reading them. And again, please remember, if you enjoyed this conversation, and please like, subscribe, and so you can keep yourself updated. And until next time, bye.
See ya.